Hello and welcome to the Meeting Your Soul podcast. It's Vera, your host. What up? Happy to see you. Thank you for joining. And today's topic is something that I'm extremely passionate about. And that is mostly because it was something I have struggled with the most over the course of my life. And that is finding self-worth and self-love. And I know it's definitely kind of one of those like hot topics and like buzz phrases that people say, like self-love, self-acceptance, owning your worth, owning your power. But I think it's talked about so much and brought up so often because our society in general, especially within America, drastically lacks it. We don't have these opportunities, or we don't even have the tools to be able to cultivate self-love in a way that's sustainable and isn't seeking external validation. And so that's why I thought today's topic would be able to dive into that and really the things that I've used to be able to help cultivate self-love within myself and within my life over the course of a lot of highs and lows. Cleo is making an appearance. Say hello to my little Cleo cat. You want to say hi? Meow. She's super vocal. But I wanted to be able to kind of dive into all of this because I really believe the value and the importance of cultivating an idea of self-compassion. And if we are allowing ourselves to be able to permeate our lives with more acceptance, with more grace, then we give ourselves the opportunity to be able to offer that to the community and the people that surround us and as well. And that ripples into every area of our life. And the more that we practice this, the more that it becomes a social norm. And I wanted to loop in positive psychology is because it's the study of the mind, but from that lens of empowerment, of acceptance, and of love, and kind of reiterating what we're doing well and what actually brings us in alignment with things that are actually attuned to more of a empowered state within our lives. So I'm going to address quite a few of those and reference those, but know that that's the intention behind it and why I chose to do that today. So self-compassion, a core concept, is a positive psychology. It blends self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. And so the distinguishing factor within self-compassion is that it's unconditional and it's not linked to any type of external validation. And I think that that's the core difference between, even self-esteem, I think, can sometimes be linked to external forces, while self-compassion is something that we can always offer ourselves no matter what's going on. And it's something that we technically have control over. And I think it really emphasizes self-acceptance. And when we emphasize self-acceptance, it's the holistic viewpoint of ourselves. It's not just what we're doing well. It's not just the accolades or the acumen. It's not just the moments where we're shining. It's also the darkness within us. It's the holistic and integrated version of who we are and the acceptance of that. And I think that that's the X factor within life, is once you're able to integrate the light and the darkness, the good and the bad, and we see that as the whole of who we are, the more that we're able to show up and really accept others in that more full and all-encompassing point of view. And until you're able to do that, it's really hard to, because honestly, y'all, we all got some shadows. We all have areas of growth. We all have things that trigger us, that bring us into that more primal state, and probably moments where we don't necessarily do things that we're proud of. And I know that I've been there plenty of times. There's definitely things I'm still working on and integrating. Right? I can point out someone's flaws very seamlessly, easily, but then I also can point out their strengths. I can point out where they're thriving. I can point to their and focus and amplify the, oh my gosh. Sorry, my cat's jumping. Do you see the hops though? Anyway, I can do that too. And so I choose. And so the more that I'm consciously choosing that, the better it is for everyone involved. And so again, those are those moments where I need to take a look at myself. That's what I'm personally working on right now, is to be able to, but also we treat others how we treat ourselves. So I digress a tad, but I come back to it because I recognize that however you speak to others, you probably speak to yourself 10 times worse, right? So if you think about that with myself, if I can look at someone's flaws so poignantly and be able to bring those to the surface in a way that, and honestly, is intended to hurt, can you imagine the things I've probably said to myself in moments where I feel like I've done something wrong, that I've made a mistake, like, we talked about it last night and she was just like, just remove yourself. Don't even engage with it. You know, remove yourself, and removing your energy, your love, your attention is punishment enough. And that's what I'm working on, is just concealing my energy towards the things that are like reserving my energy towards the things that matter most. And when I do that, I free up the space within my own mind, my own heart. And also then I don't have to live with regret. Because I always regret when I lash out, to say the least. I might have a moment. It feels good in the moment. That's why I do it. But then I'm like, you hurt me, I hurt you. But and the end, is that the type of life that I want to live? No. And so that's why I have to reevaluate. And bad karma, it will always come back. Love, that whatever you put out into the universe will be amplified and returned to you. So what do I want to put out into the universe? More love. And so that's why we come into these conversations about self-love. We come back into this conversation about integrating all of who you are and accepting all of who you are, because we all have that shadow work that we need to address. And the more that we're willing to see that side of ourselves, the more honest we are about the areas that we need to grow within, the more that we offer ourselves the same compassion and love to be able to grow through it, and also then to extend that within our broader community. So common barriers to, like, thinking of this, common barriers to self-love is negative self-talk. You know, self-criticism is one of the biggest obstacle in finding that sense of self-love, or self-acceptance. You know, picking ourselves apart and all the things that we're not doing well, or even having this image of perfectionism that we need to uphold in order to be deserving and worthy of love, is the biggest culprit and what prevents us from actually attracting it and cultivating it and having it. And so you give yourself the choice to be able to say, like, to stop that narrative within ourselves that continues to breed this sense of not enoughness. And then that's the switch. And so I think that's one of the first switches that occurs. And I'm following a particular model here and explaining this, but I do want to reiterate that there is a process of like order of operations here in order to be able to kind of reprogram ourselves into self-love and a more loving and compassionate space. So know that I'm doing this on purpose in the way. And I think first and foremost that we change our thoughts about ourselves, and we change the narrative and the conversations that we have with ourselves on an ongoing basis. If you constantly tell yourself that you're not enough, that you're not lovable, that you don't deserve to be with someone who values your time and energy, you're definitely not going to attract that. And this is something I'm personally working on, is like, what are those thoughts and like programming and beliefs that I have around love and being loved and receiving love? And how can I reframe those in a more empowering space? And also, just to be honest, first and foremost, get real about what those thoughts are. What are your negative self-beliefs? What are the limiting thought patterns that are holding you within this area that you're in right now, that's holding you stagnant so that you can't move forward? You know, allowing yourself to open up, to allow yourself to be able to receive that confirmation from the world around you, and then just even the affirmations of people and experiences and things that remind you of your worth is an opportunity. There's plenty of it to go around. So know that it's out there. You just have to be able to attune to it, to be able to see it, to hear it, to feel it, to like actually like believe it. You know, that's the difference. And so when we start to remove those cultural norms, those family norms, all the things that are telling us that we aren't at this probably unrealistic pedestal that we have to be in order to receive the love and acceptance that we want to give ourselves, it's all bullshit. We get to choose this whenever we want to. And so we get to decide. We're in control of when we receive this love and acceptance. And first and foremost, we have to give it to ourselves. And when you give it to yourselves, then the magnetism that comes from that, I'm telling you guys, that shit's off the fucking hook. I don't even normally say that, but it's real. Because once you do that, once you turn that on, that sense of like, I am worthy and I am enough and I am actually kind of a badass and like I'm actually really nice and people do like spending time with me and I actually do try to show up for people and I go above and beyond for the people I love, and I do, like, you know, I hype my people up and I remind them of their worth. I remind them of their strengths. I'm non-judgmental when there's a lot of people that could probably turn around and point the finger. I am, you know, positive. I am a ray of light. You know, those types of conversations that you start to have with yourselves again, zeroing in, directing your attention towards where you're doing well, towards the things that your strengths, towards the moments where you feel expansive. Some practices that you can easily incorporate within your life to be able to just bring awareness around some negative limiting beliefs that you might have is really to write down things that you feel like you struggle with. Characteristics are things within your personality that you don't love about yourself. I do also always encourage, and I have a whole podcast on this if you wanted to run through it, but and it's called like a light and darkness exercise, or but you can also then, I always say, if you're going to write all the things you don't like about yourself, please go through on the other side and write all the things that you love about yourself that are almost even completely counter to what that negative thought pattern is. Because there is a light and darkness within each parts of our personality, and that duality is what makes us unique. It's what makes us us. And so there is then an acceptance and kind of that broader kind of perspective about these characteristics, and that we might see them as a negative light, but then there's also some positive qualities that come along with them as well. So writing through them, maybe even just saying like, how do I view myself? I am, who am I? And like writing down different phrases that come to mind. Free writing it, letting it be fluid, letting it be authentic and true, and try not to edit yourself. If you want to burn it afterwards so you know that no one will ever read it, you can do that too. And that could be healing and kind of transformative all in its own. So take it as you like, but it's definitely an exercise worth trying out, because we can't be aware of our thought patterns. We can't be aware of how we're judging ourselves if we don't actually even take time to reflect on it. And so I think that that's what is key about that exercise, is it actually brings to the forefront where you might be even judging yourself subconsciously that you weren't even aware of. Okay. And then that actually goes into building self-love practices. There's so many different self-love practices that you can incorporate into your life. One that I personally incorporated many moons ago, and it's always because I've had a really poor body image, of is that I will look at myself in the mirror every time I get out of the shower, and I focus on three things that I love about myself. So I'll give myself compliments, and that's because for years, for most of my life, let's be real, I've thought about the flaws and things I don't like about my body. And that was kind of where my attention instantly went to. And again, whatever your attention focuses on expands. So if you're going to think about all the things that you hate about yourself every time you get out of the mirror, or every time you look at yourself in the mirror, honestly, then I know a lot of people that refuse to look at themselves in a mirror. And so like this type of self-love practice has been something that's been really transformative for me. There's a lot of science to back it as well. And it's something that I invite you to try. If you haven't done it, it's really, really profound. And just like the negative self-talk that sometimes, again, we're unconscious of, we bring light to, and then we can adjust and hopefully be able to improve upon, to just hold a more compassionate view of ourselves. And that's where it begins, right? We start with these little micro practices that build and then add and add to one another to where we have a healthier and more grounded self-worth. And, if that's the physical, or even thinking of affirmations that talk and speak to more of your like internal character. I am a good friend. I am caring. I am compassionate. I am loving. I show up for others when they need me most. Like there's so many ways that you can then reframe anything that's going on in your mind, and to be able to take a step back and just really affirm that you're doing the best that you can. I love myself for who I am today. That's my affirmation for this week. And to know I'm not exactly where I want to be, but then I'm working towards it. I attract abundance. I welcome abundance. I'm ready to receive. Like these are those moments and those invitations to lean more into the feminine, to lean more into receptive mode, and to be able to hold that true, and the importance of that as well. And, after again, being in an abusive relationship where someone was constantly pointing out my flaws, constantly pointing out what was wrong with me, why I wasn't enough, why I should feel insecure, truly was what they were doing. Once I brought light to that, I just started, honestly, it sent me into a pretty bad depression. But after I pulled myself back out, shout out Lizzo for like literally, I think, what was it, that song? And it's like, I toss my hair, I flip my hair, check my nails, and like, anyways, you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to remember the song off the top of my head. I used to listen to it all the time, but that was like my hype me up song, because I just felt really bad about myself. And, that allowed me the opportunity to switch that narrative within my mind, to not believe what was being spoken to me, and to create my own narrative. I used to always say, how you view me does not change how I view myself. So if you don't like me, that doesn't change how I should view myself. And I love myself no matter what other people think of me. And that took time to be able to really believe and understand and actually be able to embody. But again, it's about galvanizing that strength, that internal dialogue that you have, so that no matter what is going on around you or what's being said to you or what's being, indicated about you, that you can hold true to your own truth and hold on to your own truth and know that that's real. Again, actions will need to align with that, and you need to be able to, don't be delulu about it, but also maybe be a little delulu about it, like, fuck it, why not? Like, having this type of, even like, like unwarranted confidence, like how many, like what does it really hurt? More often than not, it's the complete opposite. So if you need to amp yourself up for a little while, fuck it, just go for it. Okay. So having this, and then savoring little moments and of glimmers. So I like to call these glimmers, and it's like little reminders that life is beautiful and that you are beautiful and that there's magic and there's God and there's love that constantly surrounds you at all times. It's those little moments where you get that kind of warm feeling that washes over you, or that little, like, almost like tickle within your heart. And it's just these moments of beauty, of connection, of what's right within the world, and like paying attention to those can help remind us that there's more of it. And again, what we focus on expands. So like where our energy flows, where attention goes, our energy flows. So if we're projecting our energy towards those things, it gives us the opportunity to be able to create more of it. And so again, these are these little shifts that you can do within, the viewpoint in which you view yourself, the thoughts that you think about yourself, the affirmations around it, and everything in between. So that's number 3. Build some self-love practices, write them down, incorporate them, add them to your agenda, add them to your calendar, whatever works for you, so that you're able to keep it at the forefront of your mind. The US Berkeley showed that 20 seconds of daily affirmations showed an increased self-compassion, emotional well-being, and reduced stress, according to the New York Post. So I tell you guys these things to do, not because they're just like woo-woo, whatever. It's because there's science that backs it too. Okay. And then always go back into forgiveness. One of the meditations I used to do on a regular basis, and sometimes I still do it depending on what's going on in life, is each morning when I would meditate, I would actually forgive myself for something. So I forgive myself for saying that thing or doing that thing, or even like limiting myself in some way. And it became a regular practice because we're always doing stuff that, again, even in the back of our minds, we might not think too much of, but then we kind of like, it gets added to the foundation of how we view ourselves. So if you're constantly holding resentments or regrets or judgment within your heart about yourself, it's going to continue to build, and it then solidifies, and it can actually really hinder us from self-acceptance, from self-love, because we're thinking of the laundry list of all the ways that we went wrong. And so even inviting yourself, maybe even once a week, to be able to write out things that you forgive yourself for, to consciously do that, to do the Hanapano phrases. Yeah, there you go. Hanapano. I was like, Hanapano, Hanapana, Hanapana. But it's a Hawaiian practice that is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And it cleanses the subconscious, promotes self-healing, and brings about inner peace and reconciliation. So I actually learned it in Bali when I was helping out with the yoga teacher training with Alchemy of Yoga with Sylvia Mardini. And it's one that she's incorporated into her teacher trainings too. And it's just a simple phrase. I love you. Or no, you start with, my cat is throwing me off. So if you haven't heard of it, the Hanapano phrases is a beautiful meditation that helps cultivate a sense of acceptance, of forgiveness, and it invites you to be able to let go of whatever your heart's holding on to. The phrase is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you can acknowledge a part of situation, to say I'm sorry, to say sorry to that person, even like within your own subconscious, to be able to invite in that and offer that sense of, apology. please forgive me, to ask for it, to actually ask for forgiveness, and then to embody that you've already received that forgiveness, that it has been received and it's been offered back to you. And then to then show an element of compassion. I love you, and whatever that means. This meditation helps promote self-healing, brings about inner peace and reconciliation, and also helps cleanse our self-conscious. Sometimes we're not even aware of ways that we're still holding on to pain and hurt until then we start to bring to surface and to light these areas. And this is a beautiful meditation that allows us to do exactly that. I think that I'm going to wrap up. So last but not least, it's about offering ourselves the sense of self. It's how we treat ourselves. So when we start to actually treat ourselves with self-love, we start aligning with habits and rituals and practices that exemplify that. So if it's from being able to, exercise every day because you are deserving of time to recharge your body, to feel strong, to feel connected, to be able to ease your mind. Or if it's from eating healthy foods that are nutritious, that make you feel energized and alive, being able to make food from love, to be able to take time out of your day, to be able to make yourself something and to be able to pour energy into that and to receive that energy. Again, when we are living in alignment with self-love and self-care, and we are then inviting and acknowledging that that's what we deserve, we are also then allowing that to be the standard in which we work from, and that also that we promote and then expand and share with others as well. If we're eating foods that are locally sourced, that don't use pesticides, that might be a little bit more expensive, I'm worthy of food that is nutritious for me. I am worthy of a space and time where I can feel connected to my body. I am worthy of meditation and time, 15 minutes to myself each morning as I start to begin my day, to be able to reflect and to be able to cultivate a sense of self-acceptance and love from the very start. Like, these are all little tweaks that you can incorporate within your life and create a lifestyle that actually is then forming it. And I just saw this quote recently, and it's like, we develop our habits and then they form us. So like, we then set what habits we want to put into our lives, but then over time those habits really start to form and shape who we are as individuals. And those are those habits that, what are those habits for you? What do they look like? And what are they shaping? And who do you want to be? Know that this isn't going to come without failure. You're going to make mistakes, but to hold compassion for yourself, to be able to keep pouring in, knowing that there's a lesson to be learned within it all. If you stumble, if you fall, be able to give yourself, like, speak to yourself as if you were speaking to a young child. If you want to do kind of that inner child work where you actually then see yourself as a child and be able to speak to yourself in that way, that's one exercise. Or even just be able to look at yourself as if your best friend's looking at you, telling you that you're doing just fine and that you're amazing and that it's okay to make mistakes because you're still a good person. Like, these are those moments. And if you need someone to be able to do that for you, I am happy to do that. And I do that for a lot of my friends and people in my life. And it's because it gives us the chance and the reminder that whatever we're doing is more than enough. And the fact that we're even trying to understand ourselves on a deeper level, that we're trying to grow, that we're trying to become better versions of who we are, that doesn't mean that who we are today is any there inferior to that. And I think that speaking to yourself in that manner is really important. And also have a hype crew, have people that are supporting you, that are encouraging you, and build community around that. And let that be the social norms of the conversations that you're having with your friends and your family members. Talk about your goals, talk about your aspirations, talk about the ways that you're trying to become better, and ask for and invite others to be able to join in on that with you. And let's cultivate a community where this is the norm, that this is a space where this is the conversations that are being had instead of the opposite, which I think are more often the case. So thank you so much for listening in. I felt like I poured out a lot of information. Hopefully it was helpful. And I'm just really grateful to be able to speak to this from a space of experience, from a place of my own struggles and tribulations within self-love and self-care, and knowing that it always is worth it. I can tell you that much right now. When I start choosing myself, when I stop abandoning myself for others, when I stopped people pleasing just because I thought that people pleasing was going to make me feel more liked and loved, I realized that like I have to like and love myself first, and also I can only give so much. So I had to restrain back on how much I was pouring into others to be able to conserve that energy, to be able to recharge, to be able to come from a full cup, not a depleted one. And once that simple reframing happened within it, it gave me even more justification to be able to do these types of exercises, to, to be able to look at myself in the mirror, to be able to know, like, how can I tell my daughter to love herself if I can't? To be able to have the affirmations, those negative self-thought talks. Like, I would never let my friends speak to themselves this way. Why am I talking to myself this way? And also to be able to just be honest about areas of growth that I have, but to also hold myself within a container of love as I transmute that negativity or those, maybe more toxic traits into something that I can then resonate and connect with others on that more foundational level. So it's all happening, it's all coming together, and it's all necessary. So join me if you'd like. I'm going to do a self-love and challenge that's going to be coming up. I'm going to do it for 4 months, and it's going to be a week for each one. I'll have it on my website soon. But I thought that this would be a great way to start off, to be able to talk about this, and then hopefully continue the conversation on so that you can continue to be able to apply this within your own life in a way that feels true, a way that feels supportive, and most importantly, from a way that feels rooted in love. So thank you. Join me on the gram at Ferrashino, Ferrahshino, or you can check out my website, ferrashino.com. I will be there, and if you want to reach out, feel free, slide in my DMs, or even check out my website, and you can send out a contact information from there. You can also schedule a discovery call. So if you can go to my website, 30 minutes, we can connect, we can talk about how we can show up for one another and how it might be beneficial for you and your goals that you're working towards. All right, peace out.